Hi, this is a little exercise in trying to combine photos together from a sequence of photos that were taken and taking the individual photos, putting them into Photoshop elements and ending up with a photo that is a composite of all of those things. So this is the process that we're going to use to do this. First off, I'm going to drag all those photos into Photoshop elements. And I have bins down at the bottom that are the first place to get started with this. Once you got all 5 pictures, or as many as you want in your sequence in there. My next suggestion is to try to take the largest images of people, that is, the images where people are closer to the camera, and stack them over to the left-hand side. This is going to make things a little more logical as you're trying to erase certain parts. This image on the right-hand side is going to become our background. And the one that's way up here in the foreground, we're going to cut out just the figure and paste them into this background, one step at a time. So first thing we have to do is we're going to build up this image and put all the rest of these things in as layers, and it's pretty easy to do. I'm going to use the move tool, and one at a time I'm going to drag the images out of the bin and throw them into the active window. And it gets a little confusing if you don't know where you are, but we're in the active window and building up layers out of these individual photos. First step is done. Now all this extra material that we have here, we really don't need to have these things still open. So I'm going to close them all and just keep the one photo that has everything in it, 5 layers deep. Okay, next stage, not a bad idea to save at this point and to save along the way if you make any progress. So I'm just going to go ahead and save that file. Now in placing these things one on top of the others, I'm going to start at the back. I'm going to turn everything else off like this. I'm going to start with the backmost of these photos, and I can see by turning on and off the visibility, I can see there's the original photo, the background. There's the elements that I want to take out of it. And I'm going to zoom in on it so I can get a clearer idea of what it is I'm trying to play around with here. Matter of fact, it's a good idea to go to about 100%. So I'm going to zoom in one more, get myself to 100% so I can see the figure pretty clearly. The tool that I'm going to use to try to do the selection is Quick Select. I'll choose that tool from Photoshop Elements, and this is Photoshop Elements 8, by the way. They should still have the same tool in anything more advanced. And take a look at the brush size, see what we have. Auto Enhance. Okay, I'm just going to leave this as a brush size of about 13, and I'm going to try to use the Quick Select tool to grab not only the figure, but the figure's shadow as well. And it might be that you have to scroll around a little here to get the whole thing. If you catch some of the grass, that's okay, because it should blend in fairly well, but make sure you get the complete figure and don't miss any of those shadows because it has a huge effect. Highlights likewise is a good idea. Now I'm going to zoom into more than 100% and make sure I get the entire foot. Look carefully because you don't want to leave any bits behind. Okay, generally speaking, I think we got something good here to go with, so I'll take it back. If you wanted to remove some of the selection, by the way, hold down the Alt key and you could trim away certain parts just so you don't get too much. I'm going to check the face as well and make sure I get this. Yeah, some highlights got lost. So once again, better to get too much than too little. You can also, if you wanted to, use a smaller brush if you wanted to go for more fine detail. And it'll be a little bit more precise. So I think that I've got pretty decent selection. Don't think I'm missing any big bits. So the next stage is I want to take this figure out of here and put him on his own layer. Get rid of the background behind there. Before I do, I'm going to be a little more conservative. I'm going to use the Select tool, modify, and I'm going to expand the selection by about 3 pixels. Now, it depends on the resolution of your photo, but 3 is going to leave a little margin around the outside of the character. And then I'm going to go select Feather, and I'm going to feather it by about 2 pixels. That is going to blur the border between what you take and what you don't, between the opaque and the transparent pixels. So I've done that, and now I'm going to separate the character from his background using Control J. Control J will jump him to his own layer. And I'm doing this conservatively just to see if there's anything I missed. Now when I turn off that layer that he came from, he's now on his own layer there, but all by himself. But I can turn this layer on and off and see how well he fits into it. And so far, it's looking good. Now if you notice when you turn on this layer that anything moves back and forth, the whole camera shakes. This had to be done with the tripod, and it's possible the tripod moved a little bit or some stuff moved in the back. It's pretty forgiving. You can't really tell that there's anything out of place at this point because the grass is kind of blending in with itself. And we're getting the first figure. If you're confident that you're okay with that, you can delete that layer that he came from. Keep it simple, and now go to the next layer. So this is a process that you're just going to keep repeating over and over. It's a good idea to keep adjusting that brush, making sure it's the right size. I'm using a size of about, 13, 14, 15 pixels. And make sure when you do the selection, now here's me doing a selection here, but I'm selecting actually from the background, unless I use sample all layers, in which case it will see the layers that I'm on currently. But my suggestion is don't. Make sure instead, if you see something going weird, go to the layer where you're really sampling from. And if you got some mistakes there and you want to start again, Control D will let you deselect. So I'm on the proper layer to use this tool. These are all the tricks of how these tools work. And if you know Photoshop, you know what I'm talking about. You want to catch all the shadows, especially when there is an object underneath the person. And again, I'm working at 100% zoom, so I can pretty much see everything I need. In this particular case, I'm going to take the shadow and I'm going to take a little bit of the peripheral shadow over there in the rock. So I think I've got a pretty good selection at this point. Good enough anyway. Once again, select, modify, expand, and it'll remember the last setting, 3 pixels in this case. Select feather, and it's going to feather by 2 pixels. And now from this layer, I'm going to use Control J, and I'm going to select him away and turn off his background. So now I got this character there. You get the idea. By the time you get done, you'll have all these individual characters that are going to go where they want, or exactly where you want. One last thing you can do if you really want to fine tune it, you can turn the visibility of this layer on and off and see what happens with the rock. And if you're really fussy about it, I can see that it's going down a little bit. So I'll just use the move tool and I'll tap it with the arrow keys on the keyboard to take it up a notch, turn it on and off, see if I can correct that movement just a little bit. Good enough. Thanks. Give it a try, see how you do. Good luck.